to Bent Not Broken, where we empower and motivate women by sharing real life stories of adversity and provide expert advice on how to overcome those obstacles and help you live your best life. Now here's your host, Juanita Kelly.
Hello friends, welcome to episode 6 of Bent Not Broken. I'm your host, Juanita Kelly. Over the years, I've discovered that it's important for me to own my own happiness and to set healthy boundaries. I've learned that recognizing my own peace and working to maintain that peace is one of the most valuable things to me. Many of us who are at home listening to this podcast may be in a family where you are not respected, where your opinion isn't valued, or you may feel ostracized. Maybe you're a product of a narcissistic family, or your family gaslights you, or you feel like you give and no one gives to you. That level of dysfunction is exhausting. When I saw these patterns in my own life with my own family, I had to make the difficult decision to set boundaries to ensure my own happiness. I learned that many people didn't respect my boundaries. And why should they if I never stood tall in my convictions and said no before? So when I found the courage to say enough is enough, I found my independence and my own voice. I was able to work on healing my wounds of trauma. And I worked on becoming the person who I was always meant to be. That person who was suppressed, who was shushed, that person who no one clapped for. I learned to clap for myself, and I'm creating a peaceful life. On today's episode, we'll be talking about family dysfunction with author and coach Debbie London. Today's episode is entitled Family Dysfunction. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Bent Not Broken podcast. Today, I have the pleasure of having Debbie London, who is an author, counselor, coach, podcast, as well as a YouTube host, join us. Debbie was born and raised in Atlanta, Georgia, and moved to North Carolina to pursue a degree in psychology and history. After receiving her master's degree from Marist College, Debbie began her career counseling and coaching clients on generational healing. She builds relationships with her clients through her open and honest conversations about her own life and experiences with healing. Debbie London, welcome aboard.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Let me just tell you, Debbie, I have been following you on TikTok and Instagram, and I really love your YouTube videos. And I just wanted to share your knowledge with our listeners. You really touch on a lot of things that really resonate. So welcome.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. No question is off limits, so we can dig in.
Oh, that's good. So let's get right into this. So people who are at home who haven't seen your TikToks or follow you on Instagram and have not had an opportunity to watch your YouTube, what is generational curses?
Generational curses are basically inherited negative patterns that have been passed down from generation to generation. And it could be absolutely anything. It could be drug abuse, alcoholism, a mindset, a family full of narcissists, sexual abuse, financial abuse, religious abuse, absolutely anything that is negative, that is meant to bring harm to someone else that has yet to be addressed until someone, normally the black sheep, decides to break the cycle.
Wow. That's a lot to swallow. You know, when I first went on the journey of writing my memoir, I started to realize that there were lots of generational curses and secrets within the confines of my family. I started to really look at the situation from my perspective, from my grandmother's perspective, from my aunt's perspective, my uncle's perspective. And that really opened my eyes to how dysfunctional families can be. Mm-hmm. How did you recognize in your own life that you were a part of a generational curse?
Oh, I always knew my family was fucked up. Like from the time I was a little girl.
Join the club, right?
Uh-huh. You know, like being a child, I always knew that I always had this feeling of I did not belong with them, or that I was very different because I was constantly fighting to defend myself. And it's like, I have children. My son is 9 and my daughter is 5. And when I think about being their age, like I was defending myself and fighting with adults at their age. And I can't imagine my children having to, you know, think about, well, am I saying the right things? Am I doing the right things? Well, why don't these people that are, you know, related to me, why don't they like me? Why does my mere existence upset them so much? And the problem is, and that many people who are victims of generational trauma, the number one issue is that you're going to be gaslit the entire time until you finally wake up and realize that you're not crazy and that you're not the problem. But because you're you're around people that are like, oh no, you're causing a rift in the family if you speak up. So guess what? Now you're being silenced. And now you grow up not being able to use your voice in the way that you need to, because you're always second guessing yourself. Because every time you're like, wait a minute, what you're doing isn't right. You beating on my grandma, or, you sexually abusing, a child in the family, or you doing whatever, or you speaking very disrespectfully to me. None of these things are right and make sense. But then if you have people that are in agreement with that and want to turn the blind eye to these very serious issues, then you start to feel isolated. Like, maybe something is wrong with me. Maybe I do overreact. Maybe I am too emotional. And then that's how the cycle continues, where the abusers are seemingly getting away with things and the victims are being backed into a corner where they are being silenced. And thus it continues because no one's speaking up or against what is happening. So I've always known it was a matter of getting out of the environment to where I could really see things clearly. That's why me going to college was super important. And I'll never forget my senior year of high school. And I was like, I don't care where I go. It just needs to be very decently far away from Atlanta. It has to be more than 2-3 hours away. And it was the best decision I ever made, honestly and truly.
You created boundaries.
I didn't realize at the time that's what I was doing. I just knew if I didn't get away, I would be trapped forever.
And once you were in college and you were out of that situation of being, abused mentally, emotionally, physically, whatever it is, how did you feel when you finally had an opportunity to breathe, to exhale,
It was terrifying, but a huge sigh of relief at once because I had the opportunity to see how other people live. Even though we were in dorms, I had the opportunity to step into being my own person. Even in the moments where I was roughing it or I had to make things happen on my own, my independence started in college. And these are years I will never forget. That means so much to me even now, because when you have things held over your head and you are being controlled, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, everything else, and you feel like you can't make any decisions for yourself. And finally, I was able to do things for me and begin laying the foundation for what I wanted my life to look like. Even though it was a ton of trial and error, even after graduating from college, it set the tone of, wait a minute, this life is really more peaceful. Even with my own drama, life is still more peaceful than being around y'all, is what I learned. And then the goal after college was, let me figure out how to make this a thing, permanent, and the healing kind of unraveled from there. And one key thing that happened before I left for school, it was the summer before I went to college, and God said, you're going to write a book about your family and breaking generational curses. You're going to talk about your experience. I was like, no, I'm not. I'm not doing that. What are you talking? I'm 18. And so I'm like, God, what you talking about writing a book? This is in 2005, even though that wasn't super long ago, but it still was. Oh my God, that was 16. Okay.
It went by quick, right? It went by quick.
I was like, wait a minute, that was almost 20 years ago.
So you knew that this book was inside of you, and you knew at a young age that you were a product of generational curses. You're in college, you are, distancing yourself from your relatives and those people who were controlling or what have you. How did you go, I need to start healing this trauma?
Man, it was trial and error. And that's what I was speaking about when I said trial and error, because I couldn't quite put my finger on things. Me and my grandfather specifically would be fighting. And I would have relatives, which I now realize were gaslighting me and just trying to keep me quiet. Be like, oh my God, y'all are just so much alike. That's why you butt heads. You were just, oh no, he's just in fear. He's just in fear of the worst happening. That's why, he's so abusive to you. That's why he talks down to you and tries to break your spirit. He's just afraid. And none of that shit ever made sense to me. I just want to say, I want to put that on the record. That never made any sense to me.
Because it doesn't make sense.
Exactly. Huge manipulation. And this is from family members that my whole life I thought were in my corner, but I couldn't see, the forest from the trees at the time. I'm like, oh, well, they're just trying to help. No, they're not trying to help me. They're trying to keep that crap going because they don't want to own and accept that their father is trash. The person that they admire, the person who is their Lord and Savior, is absolute trash. So you're telling me that I am just like this person. Oh my God. That's awful to even say that I'm just like them, which is something I noticed with my clients and other family members of mine. They try to use that line to make you seem like you're cut from that same cloth when you're not. And then, constantly trying to say, well, they're afraid. And because they're so fearful, that's why they speak to you in that way. They don't want you to mess up. They don't want you to fail. But it's like, no, that's counterproductive.
So people are making excuses for someone's bad behavior, and that's not right.
And also trying to make me take ownership of it in some way, which is very, again, manipulative and gaslighting. And it wasn't until I had my son, honestly and truly, it wasn't until I had my baby boy that I really started peeling back the layers, because I have a lot of anger towards this man, my grandfather, and I could not pinpoint why. And so, with pregnancy comes postpartum depression. Not every woman experiences that, but it is definitely a possibility, and it's normal, to experience that. And I did have postpartum depression with my son. And I remember my ex-husband at the time was like, hey, look, I don't know what's going on, but I want my Debbie back. And it was the way my ex-husband said it where I was like, oh shit, like it must be really bad if he's like approaching me like this, and he's a guy, so he has no idea about.
So other people around you were recognizing how you were actually feeling. Yeah.
Exactly. I'm unraveling. And one of those same relatives, I called them and I was trying to peel back the layers. And then it hit me, suppressed memories started coming up, because anger was a huge thing for me. And I had a big problem with, I'm only 5'3", I'm a little thing. And it's like, I had a problem with people disrespecting me. And if I felt like I was disrespected, I'm going off. I'm getting real ratchet. I'm pulling all the Adamsville, out from Atlanta. I realized that anger was rooted in my childhood and watching my grandfather sexually abuse my mom constantly. And it wasn't until I had that conversation with the other relative about, why are you so angry, Debbie? And then it just hit me. I was like, because I watched him do this, because I watched him abuse my grandmother, but because I wasn't able to speak on it, what happens? You end up burying it and suppressing it. And then I realized even years later, that was just the tip of the iceberg, because with trauma, memories can seemingly disappear, but your behavior, it's acting out by what's stored in your subconscious. And from there, it was just years of unpacking and me trying to gain my footing.
Do you think that going to school and studying psychology was inadvertently a subconscious thing to kind of...
Absolutely.
So you knew you needed help.
I wanted to understand, why in the world are people like this? How can they be so abusive? What makes people tick? Because maybe if I have some understanding, I can cope better. Maybe if I, can figure it out. And then that's what led me on the path to wanting to be a psychologist. But then when I started my master's program to get my license in professional counseling, I was like, there's no way I'm going to be able to help people like this. And this is not a knock against therapists. I just know for me and my personality, I'm not going to be able to dance around the issues at all. And that's what they were teaching us to do in the program I was in. I was like, no. Why can't you just tell them what it is? If you can see what's going on, just tell them, hey, X, Y, and Z is what's going on. But they were saying there were liabilities for that. And I was like, fuck this. I'm not. And so then I changed and got my master's in public administration instead, because I'm like, nah, that's not it. God, I know you want me to help people, but it can't be in this way. And it made sense later because of what I'm doing now. But at the time, I didn't understand the path I was on. And then fast forward several years and just finally getting cornered by God, like, you need to write this book. And I was working for a landscaping company and I was just miserable. And I called my sister and I was crying and I said, I know I'm supposed to be doing something more because I don't feel filled. And she said, you're supposed to be writing. You need to carry a notebook with you everywhere and just write. And I just started writing. Through my first book, Residue, Surviving and Overcoming the Stains of Generational Curses and Soul Ties, I was trying to understand my mother better when I was writing that book as well. Because I was like, well, maybe if I understand all of her trauma and maybe if I help her heal, then we can have a better relationship, which was very misguided as well. But either here nor there, the book did what it was supposed to do and opened my eyes to even more things. And the snowball of healing just continued from there. So
writing the book actually helped you acknowledge and face the traumas that you were dealing with. Was it like journaling? Did it give you an opportunity to process your emotions?
It absolutely did in a very raw and real way. And it was terrifying because it's literally like getting naked in front of a stadium of people, and just bearing everything. And when you're coming from, and this too, coming from the background of, you don't talk about family business. That's all we heard. What goes on in the family stays in the family. Like, you don't talk about it. But really what they're really saying is you don't air out our dirty laundry because we have no intention of cleaning it. Yeah. So you better deal with it. That's really all that shit really means, to be honest.
Isn't it amazing that we know based upon our ethnic background, how we are taught as children that what happens in our house, it stays in our house. It's amazing. I know, for instance, when I was younger and we were struggling financially and say the power got cut off, we didn't have any electricity. And I would remember going to school and my grandmother would say to me, you better not say anything. You better not tell anyone we don't have power. That fear was like, because if you tell someone, I'm going to kick your ass type thing. So I remember that fear of going, okay, I can't let anybody know, but I'm going to go home tonight at 4:00 and there's only going to be so many hours of light to do my schoolwork.
And what does that do? It creates the mindset that you can't ask for help.
Cannot.
So then when you get older and you do need something and you do have supportive and loving people around you, now you've developed a prideful attitude unintentionally just to keep that crazy mindset going of no, you be quiet. You don't let people know what we have going on here. So it's layers of shame, of guilt, of disappointment with self. Now we've created a prideful person. And now when someone is trying to support, you can't ask for help or you think there's something to it, or you're waiting on the other shoe to drop. Look at what it does. But these things go unaddressed, no matter how seemingly small or ridiculously large the issues may be. This is the problem. This is why this type of thing has to be addressed.
Can a person raise their children in a loving situation if they were taught how to hate by their parents?
If that person has done the work to heal and to resolve their own issues, absolutely. Because I mean, I would say I'm that person. I was taught to do things a certain way, but the way that God made me, I can't. I was not made to conform, especially not to bullshit. So it's like, because I had to fight so hard to go against the grain. You get what I'm saying? Now my kids can live a peaceful life. You know, it's very shocking to me when I'm interacting with my children sometimes, or, you know, something may come on TV. For example, it was a Kurt Franklin video a couple years ago, and I'll never forget this. You know, they're showing different scenes of like negative things happening. And one was an abusive father in the household. And my son was sincerely perplexed when he saw that scene. He said, what? Why would someone do that? Why would someone be mean to their family? And it hit my cousin and I. Our children will never be exposed to the type of life that was normal to us. It was normal for us to see the wives get beat down. It was normal for us to be victims of sexual abuse. It was normal for us to be silenced. And my son is over here like just with a scene from acting in a music video. Like, whoa, why is he being mean to his family? And I was like, you know, and this is how I'm doing my job, that my kids don't even understand. It's not to shelter them, but it's like they literally, like, it is beyond them because they're raised in loving households on purpose.
Yes.
Huge.
I love the fact that you, on your TikTok, you have generational cards. Can you explain to our listeners what you do with your generational cards?
God put it on my heart to create generational healing prompt cards because I started my serious spiritual awakening process in 2019 and doing hella shadow work. And what shadow work is basically going to those hidden parts within yourself and illuminating them with light, aka healing, so they're no longer locked up in your subconscious and you're not acting out based on what has not been addressed or what has been unintentionally or intentionally swept under the rug. And what these generational healing prompts do, they give you cues to write. Like one of the questions I just did says, in what ways do you hold people to a standard that you don't keep yourself? Ouch. As an example, someone may answer that, well, I want someone to trust me. I want someone to give me their undivided attention, but I'm going to be very much to myself, or I'm going to be distrusting of them or whatever. And then you have to unpack that. And the reason why I am huge on writing is because as you are purging through your pen, everything is going to come up in a way that you did not expect it to. And that's the purpose of shadow work. And my cards just give you a question at a time so that you can heal. If you want to to heal on your own, these cards are perfect. You get a question a day or however long you want to, because some of them are so heavy that you're like, I need to do one every few days because
it's deep, right? Yeah.
Because the cards are reading me for filth with these questions, or the questions are just super heavy and they're really pulling at things that have been locked away for so long. And shadow work is important to your healing process. It's really facing yourself, even the parts of you that you don't like, even the parts of you that make you angry, the parts of you that reopen wounds that weren't properly treated in the first place. And my cards help to do that if you want to heal on your own.
They're amazing. I'm telling you, when I go to your TikTok page and I see the questions, it makes me sit and stop and think. And I really reflect on it. And it really has done something for my insides. It's done something for my heart and me emotionally. Sometimes we wear this armor around us. And I know I do a lot. And it really took away all the BS and it made me look really at myself. And whatever is ugly, if it's beautiful, if it's rough around the edges, whatever it is, I really have to sit there when I see your cards and I go, okay, what does this mean to me? Why do I feel this way? Why does this sentence on this card make me feel like this? And I think that is so wonderful that you created these cards because they help with healing.
I'm so grateful to hear that because that is what they are intended to do. That is what I am intended to do. That is my life's purpose. That is the soul mission that God has placed on my heart to do, is to make sure that no one has to endure what I did. And if you have, I can show you the way out. I can show you that healing is possible, that peace is possible, that freedom is possible. And like I tell people all the time, like, look, if you mess with me, you gon' heal. And that's on period. Like, what? You need books? You need a podcast? You need my services? Like, what you need? I got you. I am the healing dealer for real. And it's important because for so long, back to just cultural dynamics, healing wasn't a thing. And I'm just so grateful to see that therapy is so freely talked about now. It's not something hush hush. It's not like, oh, something's wrong with you. No, it's like, yes, I see a therapist, or I see a counselor, or I see a coach, or I see whatever. Like, yes, with pride. Absolutely. I do. And we're getting out of that mindset that therapy and healing are bad words and moving into the mindset, well, whatever I have to do to get into alignment with my best and highest self, I'm doing that, for me, but also for those after me. And what I want now, because majority of my clients and my followings are women, I want to work with more men, because if I can get more men on board with this, oh my goodness, the balance, we would achieve that. But I understand I'm not a man, and understandably so, you want to be more comfortable with it. But man, like, God has put it on my heart, like, you're going to work with more men. And I'm like, let's do it, because we need balance.
Speaking into existence. I love it.
You know what I mean? It's like, as women, we're more open to being vulnerable. There's a willingness there to, okay, even if I'm scared, I know I need to do something. And men, it's like, nope, I'm not, no. It's time for us to get out of that. No matter who the messenger is, if they have what you need, let's get it. Let's get into that. Let's get into those mother wounds. Let's get into those father wounds. Let's get into that inner child trauma. Like, let's talk about it. Let's get to the root. Let's get naked so that you can become whole, healed, and complete. So you're not over here spewing this crap all over, anything and everyone. My ultimate goal is just to be world renowned in healing and providing people with the tools and resources they need to break ancestral trauma in every way, like really, really change the course of their bloodline.
I have to say, I thank you for your TikToks and your Instagram, your YouTube. And I am a devout follower. And I want everyone who is listening to this podcast to take a second and follow Debbie London and learn from her. Debbie, you have shared such tremendous insight today with us. And I am so thankful you came on today and shared your story. How can our listeners find more information about you online?
You can go to my website. That is DebbieLLondon.com, DebbieLLondon.com. Or you can find me on TikTok, Instagram, and my Twitter, where I just dump stuff from time to time, which is at Debbie L. London. All of my handles are the same. Or you can find me on my podcast, Guy Anagram. It's available on all platforms, or my YouTube, which is also Debbie L. London.
Well, thank you, Debbie, for joining us today. It's been a pleasure.
I am so happy. Thank you.
On the next episode of Bent Not Broken, we talk with author and activist Elona Washington as we discuss surviving child abuse. Thank you all for joining us. We'll see you next time. Bye for now.
This has been Bent Not Broken with Juanita Kelly. Thanks for listening. You can find us online at www.bentnotbroken.co, all major podcast platforms and YouTube. Be sure to follow us on social media at Bent Not Broken Podcast.